Right, so you're stuck on Windows 10, maybe even Windows 11, and you feel like you need an upgrade. You're just not happy with how things are going. Today I'd like to show you how to upgrade your operating system to something that's way better. So let's get into it. We're using Windows 10 today, but the process should be pretty much the same for whatever operating system you currently are on. Windows, whichever Windows you're on. So what we want to do is we actually want to go and download a few things, okay? First things first is make sure you have a flash drive plugged in and that you don't care about that flash drive's contents, okay? Because this whole process is going to format the flash drive. But yeah, let's head over to your favorite browser. It could be Chrome, it could be whatever, doesn't matter. I'm using Edge here today. And first things first is we want to go and head over to linuxmint.com. linuxmint.com. And I mean, if you know of any other flavors, that you want to try, this process will be pretty much the same. But we're gonna click on this big download button, and we're gonna go to Cinnamon or whichever other edition you want. But Cinnamon is nice, it's nice. So you have a few options to download it. You can use a torrent. If you already have torrent peer-to-peer software installed, you can use that. But if you just, scroll down, there's mirrors. So the location, you want to choose a location that is kind of closest to you. Okay, I'm going to go for one of these in the Netherlands, the Light server. So you click on that, you download it, and once it's downloaded, we'll jump back into it. Okay, so now you should have downloaded it. I have downloaded it to a separate storage file over here. There's Linux, Mint, Cinnamon, whatever. Okay. The next thing is we want is Rufus 411 or any one of the recent Rufuses. So you could search for Rufus, but oftentimes searching for Rufus, you might fall prey to advertisers pretending to be Rufus, so never click on ads. Always scroll down to the actual search results, read the URL, rufus.ie, HTTPS, okay? That's the one you want to go to. Don't go to any other URL for Rufus. Man, the ads, I'm not used to ads, sorry. So you want to scroll down and scroll down until you hit this latest releases section. You can download whichever's portable or standard. I downloaded standard. Okay, so once you have those two things downloaded, we'll jump into the actual process of getting your USB flash drive ready so that you can start the process of installing a new, better, totally rad operating system. Here they're both downloaded. So what you want to do, make sure that your flash drive is plugged in. You can see mine's already done, but I'll run you through the process anyways. You want to double click on Rufus. Now this is going to require some admin privileges, okay? So if you're working on like an old corporate laptop that's locked down, you might not be able to do this, but most people should be able to do this. You click yes if it asks you the security question. And now we're going to go, here you select your device. Please make sure you select the correct device, okay? That's why I recommend only having just the flash drive you want to use plugged in. No external hard drives, no backup systems, nothing else plugged into USB. Just your, mouse, keyboard, and flash drive. That's it. Anyways, so I'm going to click that one. I am going to use a disk image or ISO. So let's go and click select. It'll open a file browser. You go to where you've downloaded it. Mine is my storage here. Click open. So you're telling Rufus which one you're going to use, and Rufus can detect a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so basically just agree to whatever Rufus wants you to do. The default settings normally pretty good, but the partition scheme, and this is an important one, okay? The partition scheme, if you have a newer, like a very new computer that you're going to be installing this on, then GPT is going to be the one that you want. Older systems can use MBR. Newer systems can also use MBR, but sometimes the graphics cards and the drivers, they don't like playing nicely if you've installed using the old BIOS or legacy system. So general rule of thumb is if your computer's pretty new, use GPT, else MBR. I'm going to use MBR because my target system is actually a virtual machine. Yes, it's virtual. It does not exist, except obviously in digital space. Then target system, setting it to BIOS or UEFI is pretty much your best bet. If you choose GPT, that's going to be your only option because GPT only supports UEFI. Anyways, moving on, you can give it a label, but the automatic labeling is fine. Everything else, auto. And next thing is you click start. And it will confirm with you a bunch of times that you will be losing data on this flash drive. Also, I recommend the ISO image mode. That's kind of like the sort of oldest, most supported mode, I would say. So just use ISO mode. You click OK. Warning, it really tells you what's going on. In some cases, you might have to download 2 additional files, but you just read the prompts and you accept and agree to it, and it will download it for you, not a problem. Anyway, so now I've started the process. Once this is finished, we'll jump back in and we'll complete the rest of the installation process. Just taking a pause here while we wait for this to install. Please do check out my Ko-Fi page. It's not Linux or computer related, but if you feel any of my videos are helpful, please feel free to buy me a coffee or donate in some way via my Ko-Fi page. Coffee page, Ko-Fi, coffee. Anyways, you can check it out. Link in the description, and it's also there on screen. Thanks. Yeah, it takes a while. So I'll see you when it's finished. Right, so we are nearing the completion of this USB drive creation process. While we are waiting for that to finish, might I remind you that you can use Rufus to make Windows ISOs, sorry, not ISOs, but Windows flash drives as well. If you have a Windows ISO, you can use Rufus to make the flash drive bootable so that it can install and all that nonsense. And when you actually have Windows loaded, it could potentially even give you different options as well. So Rufus is a really, really fun tool. I don't use it that often. Once you're over on Linux, Rufus, I don't think Rufus does have a Linux sort of binary, but you can use Ventoy. I think I have made a video of that in the past. But yeah, hey, look, there we go. Now, Rufus, I don't know. I would prefer if they said process complete or something like that, but now it just says ready, which just means you're ready to reboot and install, you know. So you can click the close button now. You can carry on using your Windows. You can wave goodbye, you know, make sure all your stuff is updated. I mean, backed up, sorry, because what I'm about to do is going to erase the whole thing. You can, of course, also dual boot, but that's a topic for another day. So yeah, let's get into it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna reboot. Now, each computer has a different way of doing things, all right? And you do want to hit restart here if you're on Windows, because if you shut down, Windows does this thing where it tends to lock partitions, and that could potentially cause an issue. So you want to hit restart. And when you get into your, you know, when your computer just starts up, those little flashy things, each computer is different, each vendor is different, each laptop is different. But most of the time it's F8. If you just hit that F8 button as the computer is rebooting, and it should give you what we call a boot menu. If it doesn't, hitting delete normally takes you into the BIOS, and then from the BIOS you can access the boot menu from there. So you'll just have to see for your specific computer how to do that. For me, I'm going to be hitting escape. So let's see, we're going to hit restart. I'm going to wait for it to give me the option. There we go. I hit escape for the boot menu. Now this is a virtual machine, so everything's very ugly and old looking, but we want to boot from the flash drive we've just made. So out of the options I have here, 2 seems the best option. You know, it's most likely to be the flash drive. And lo and behold, it was. So here now you have options. You can start Linux Mint. So this is different to a normal Windows installation. Windows will generally just start the setup for you if you're booting, and it doesn't really give you the option to try out the operating system before actually installing it to your machine. When I hit Start Linux Mint here, it's actually going to start a live environment. So that's my recommendation to anyone who's new to Linux, is just start the live environment and then install from there. More advanced users can do the OEM install and whatever else you need to do. You can even do a memory test if you're just trying to troubleshoot your computer. But let's go with Linux Mint. Obviously, you can't use your mouse here, just up and down with your arrow keys and enter on the option. It may or may not take a while, depending on the speed of your flash drive. That's another thing worth mentioning. If you use a high quality flash drive, this process should be quite fast. I am using an extremely cheap one, so let's see how long it takes. Hey, that wasn't too bad. Never mind. Once you've installed it onto an SSD, it'll be fast. Alrighto. So I'm going to give it a few more moments just to sort out all the background stuff. But here you can now try out the Linux Mint. You can make sure that your network is working and that your Wi-Fi can connect and all of that stuff. That way you know that your hardware is compatible. If you have any issues right now, then you know either you need to figure out how to install those drivers while you're doing this, how to load those drivers, or perhaps look at another distribution that perhaps ships with a newer kernel. Especially if you're on like brand spanking new hardware, you might have to go with a rolling release. However, Linux Mint is very stable and should support most systems and hardware. The only thing is your RGB lighting controls, if you are gamers. RGB lighting controls, that's something you're going to have to install for most distributions. You're going to have to install something like OpenRGB or vendor-specific community projects to, control specific stuff like Logitech mice or something like that. But the software is available most of the time. Just search for your particular hardware and see what the solutions are. But I digress. Let's move on. It's had a bit of a chance now to load. You'll see you can now try it out. If you see two mouse cursors on my screen, that's because one is my system and one is the virtual machine, okay? But you should just have the one. Now you can try it out, you can check what it ships with, you can try out the software, and it's pretty good. You don't really have to know the app, just type like what it's used for and it generally gives you what's installed. So here's Software Manager. This is kind of like the App Store. And Linux has a bunch of other different ways you can install and manage your software. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not going to let it generate the cache and all that stuff now because this is just a live environment. Anyways, how to actually install it? Let's get into it. You see this little install Linux Mint thing? Double click on that. And then you wait. Again, I'm using a cheap flash drive. If you were using a faster flash drive, this whole process is going to go much, much smoother. All right, so this brings up the graphical installer. You choose your language. Continue. Then this is very important, okay? Keyboard layout, I'm going to actually choose South Africa because in South Africa, we tend to just use the American one, okay? In fact, Windows, I don't even think has a South African keyboard layout. It has the South Africa, time format and all that stuff, but it doesn't actually have the layout because it's essentially just the whatchamacallit. Test it with some of the special characters. Make sure that your keyboard layout is correct. Otherwise, if you make passwords with special characters, well, guess what? They're all going to be wrong. Anyways, so I'm going to use the English South Africa because that's what I use, and I think this is basically the same as the USA International. And then English South Africa would be the formatting. That's just for locale settings. Continue. So yeah, this is kind of cool. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing crazy about it. If you are going to be consuming, various different downloaded movies and I don't know, CCTV camera footage and whatever else, music and whatever, I would recommend ticking this box, install multimedia codecs. For my purposes, I'm not going to be doing it, but please feel free to tick that box. Continue. It's pretty straightforward. Now here is the difficult section, okay? My plan is to just wipe out this entire machine and start fresh, all right? If you're doing dual booting, which again, it's for a different video, but then you're gonna have to make some changes here, okay? Now, I'm literally just gonna say erase the disk and install Linux Mint. I'm not even gonna access the advanced features. If you just want something straightforward that works and that's not going to complicate the crap out of your life, just stick with the defaults, okay? Also, if you're installing something else and it asks you if you want to encrypt, say no. If you're a home user, say no for encryption, because should anything go wrong, especially if you're new to Linux, should anything go wrong with encryption, it makes it that much harder to fix, okay? Remember, you only really need encryption if you are a target, okay? So keep that in mind. Here's something else. The something else option, it's more advanced. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody who's new. Then you hit the install now button, okay? Now, I'm still within two minds whether I actually want to nuke this virtual machine or not, but let's click the install now button. So, it does a very good job of communicating. Please read everything. Don't be one of those people who just click everything, okay? So it says here, data will be erased from the disk. It's going to erase the disk. You're going to lose all your stuff. You're going to lose it. And I might as well just do this. Screw it. I might as well just do it. But yeah, it tells you what changes are going to be made. I'm going to hit continue. And yeah, I do like having a Windows virtual machine just in case, but I can always just make another one. So cool. Where are you from? This is also important because this is going to control your locale settings as well. You know, when you actually do use your Office applications, what, you know, are you going to be using commas instead of decimal points, etc. Stuff like that. So it's kind of important just choosing the right zone here. It can also affect where it downloads updates from. Normally it tries to grab updates from the closest server to you. Cool. Now, this also kind of important. Don't choose something too lengthy and fancy over here, because even though you might not need it, if you ever do need to jump into the terminal for whatever reason, typing out extremely long passwords in the terminal can be tedious, but still pick something safe and secure. Now, I'm going to do something super easy here. I'm just going to say John. You can change the computer's name. That's useful if you're working in a corporate environment and you want something that, you know, you might want to change this to something like workshop PC or whatever the case may be. Then if your IT tech is checking it out on the network, they know exactly what PC it is. Password, I'm going to go with something extremely basic. Again, don't do this. It's bad practice. This is just a temporary machine that's probably just going to get nuked anyways for me. You can log in automatically if you want to, or you can require the password to log in. That's entirely up to you. Like I have already said, if you're not a target, if you're not dealing with sensitive information, do not use encryption, okay? Because if anything goes wrong, which it doesn't go wrong often, trust me, it doesn't. But if anything does go wrong, encryption just makes it so much more difficult to fix those issues. So by all means, if you're a multi-millionaire, super rich oak, and a lot of people hate you, by all means, encrypt your home folder, okay? But for me, I'm just gonna ignore that. Cool. So I'm gonna say require a password just so that when we reboot, you can see what that looks like. And I'm gonna hit continue. And at this stage of your life, oftentimes, if there was any compatibility issues, oftentimes it would have already crept up. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is, if you're installing this on an old computer that has been giving you issues on Windows, those issues could be hardware related. I had a laptop here not too long ago, which we tried to install Linux on, and there was a hardware related issue with the motherboard that it had read and write errors. That was hardware related. So we couldn't get this to successfully complete, not even with Windows, okay, because it was a hardware issue. So keep that in mind. If this, for whatever reason, fails, it's not necessarily Linux's fault. It could be a hardware issue, especially if your stuff is old, okay? Just something to keep in mind. You can scroll through all of these things if you want. And yeah. I think you could actually click on this little button. Yeah, you can click on this button here if you want to see what it's doing. Okay. Not that it would make a lot of sense for most people. Even for someone like me who's been using Linux for quite a number of years, a lot of this would just be like, oh, yeah, cool, right. But hey, um, I'll I'll just cut forward to when this is finished, and I'll see you when the installation is done. Bye. Alrighto, it's finished. The little dialog went away and this popped up. So it says installation is finished. You can continue testing. So I actually, it's up to you. You can continue testing, but please note any changes you make in here, it's the live environment. It's not going to be saved. So let's hit restart now and see what happens. Now it will be loading off of the drive, so it should go a lot faster. Normally they want you to remove the USB flash drive now and hit enter. I'm not going to do that because I can generally control what my system boots from. The only reason they do this is oftentimes systems are set to boot from USB if a USB is plugged in. But hey, I'm just going to hit enter. And I'm actually not going to go the boot menu. It's just booting from hard disk, it said. And look at that. It's not Windows. Haha, it's Mint. So let's let that load in. And you'll see it's going to look very similar to the live environment. There's my little PC's information, the time, all of that stuff, keyboard layout. Let's type in my super secure password. Type in the comments below, what do you think the password was? Alrighty ho, so now we've loaded into Linux Mint. Again, it's still loading stuff in the background just like Windows normally does. Just because you see visually what's going on doesn't mean it's finished loading. The computer will feel sluggish if you start using it immediately after you load into this. So just give it a few seconds, If you're on an SSD, it's a little bit better than a hard drive. But anyways, here's a welcome screen. There's some first steps. It'll teach you about system snapshots, all of that stuff. If you're interested in backing stuff up, if you're just going to be using the computer to browse the web and, I don't know, check Facebook or whatever, you probably don't even need to worry about any of that. But you guys can go and have a read through all of this. You can disable it if you want. I would say if you're brand spanking new, keep this enabled for a little bit, for the first week or so, just in case there's any questions you may have. If you come across something not working, instead of Googling it, you might be able to find the answer here. And please do not use AI to ask questions about this, okay? Rather Google or use another search engine of some kind. Go to actual websites and forums and find solutions there. Don't trust AI with this stuff, because if it gives you the wrong command, you could seriously mess up your stuff. Anyways, so I'm going to close out here and you can see it's working. There's my flash drive. There's the CD that's still mounted. I think that's the Windows CD if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, so it works. Firefox is installed. That's the installation done. I would recommend for Firefox you install a few additional extensions, and the first one would be DuckDuckGo Privacy Essentials. The second one would be uBlock Origin. Okay, uBlock Origin actually no longer functions on Google Chrome, but it still works on Firefox. So if you want an ad-free experience, DuckDuckGo Privacy Essentials and uBlock Origin. You can go and install that. And for YouTube, you can even install Sponsor Block, okay, which is another extension you can install. It automatically skips, well, most of the time, it automatically skips the sponsor sections in YouTube videos. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed it. if you found that helpful, please consider checking my Ko-Fi page. Buy me a coffee if you want, or just share the page with other people. There's some mathematics resources on there. I will be uploading more. There's not a lot at the moment, but I will be making more, and it is free. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I do hope that you enjoy your Linux experience. And yeah, remember, don't ask AI. Search. Search. Rather just use normal search and speak to other people on forums if you do run into any sort of major issues. Okay. So yeah, that's keep changes. Cool. So that's it for me. Take it easy.